We have a major update revolving around the Phoenix Suns as a new report has come out letting us know that this changes everything for the Suns' direction. As Brian Windhorst, the guy from ESPN, has let us know that the Suns are going to expect to trade Kevin Durant in this off season and that Kevin Durant expects it as well. So, how will this unfold for the Phoenix Suns organization? For people like James Jones, Matt Ishbia, Mike Budenholzer, and all involved. We'll be getting into all of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Velez, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your love and support on the channel, which has been super appreciative over these last couple of weeks. But we did notice that roughly right around 82% of you guys who watch these videos are not subscribed, though. So if you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around the Suns, like information like this, and stay tuned for weekly live streams, which will be live again once again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Phoenix time, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, though, let's get into the news. It is a spicy one, so make sure to grab that drink to cool this one down. But we're going to be discussing the potential possibility of Kevin Durant and asking, is he ultimately gone? As Phoenix Suns fans have had this kind of narrative kind of been dropped on them in the middle of the trade deadline when they almost traded away Kevin Durant. Now, we all know Kevin Durant nixed that trade. He vetoed it, and he spoke about it on the podcast today with Draymond Green, and I broke that down and talked about it in today's earlier video. So if you missed that, go check that one out. But ultimately, a guy like Kevin Durant, like I said, nixed that trade and did not want to go, ultimately because he didn't want to be traded in the middle of the season. But with new reports now coming out from ESPN and Brian Windhorst, it is still safe to say that the Durant trade most likely will still happen, as he reported that Kevin Durant's last season, this is Kevin Durant's most likely last season as a Phoenix Sun, saying they're going to trade him and he knows that. I think everybody's intentions are crystal clear here. And it's kind of crazy to obviously see this unfold. Like I mentioned, obviously the Suns are not doing great this season, as Brian Windhorst obviously speaks out about this. But Durant, obviously, $51 million this year, is making $54 million next year and is on an expiring contract. And the question mark is looming. Does he sign an extension with Phoenix? Does he stay here long term? Or does he decide that he wants to go play somewhere else to go win for a championship? Now, the Suns, obviously, record is not holding up great as they are 11th, not even in the play-in at this point. Meanwhile, the playoffs sitting at 27 and 31, and a couple games behind that play-in as well, as they currently sit 2.5 games back from the Sacramento Kings. Being 2-8 in their last 10 as well is definitely not helpful for this organization, and ultimately, it's just not been great. But Windhorst obviously has been saying that it could be Kevin Durant's last season as a Phoenix Sun. Now, we want to look at Durant's stats so far this season. Like I mentioned in the previous video, he's been the MVP for the Suns this season at 36 years old. He is getting older, but still has been that prime Kevin Durant. 27.6 rebounds, 4.3 assists, almost 1.5 blocks, and a steal per game on 53% shooting from the field and 40% shooting from three. Kevin Durant has been absolutely lethal for this Suns team, and when he got hurt earlier on in the season, that's when the Suns started to crumble and ultimately fall apart. And with Kevin Durant kind of integrated back into this lineup with him being healthy, he has been able to, propel this team and lead them into some big wins. But ultimately, the roster construction, how this team has so many of the same player types in Durant, Booker, Beal, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal as these scorers with no realistic premier defenders besides Ryan Dunn, who, as we all know, doesn't really get much playing time with the Suns as of these days. It's very difficult for obviously a team like this to succeed and to prove to Kevin Durant that they obviously want to compete and still want to be in these conversations. And for Durant, obviously, who was surprised by the fact that Phoenix wanted to trade him and almost did trade him at the trade deadline, I can understand why in his head he's already moved on from Phoenix as well. But ultimately, with this whole situation, I am not going to buy it until I see it go through, as we've seen with the Phoenix Suns here in this team. They've had multiple talks of multiple things going down, and neither of them have happened. First, it was they were going to get Jimmy Butler. And maybe they were aggressive. Maybe they were one of those top teams that were trying to get him. And maybe Miami was giving them a little bit of a harder time trying to get Bradley Beal just because they didn't want to give them Jimmy Butler in that case, because Pat Riley was being a little bit stingy, not giving Jimmy ultimately what he wanted. But regardless of all of that factor and all that mess, you still obviously try to, keep Kevin Durant and try not to trade him. And the fact that they almost did and tried to move off of him definitely sent a little bit of shockwaves to him and ultimately could result in him leaving this season. But like I said, I don't think it is, the say all be all, because not only did they not get Jimmy Butler, but they were rumored to trade Kevin Durant at the deadline. Remember that, folks. They were saying that, oh, Kevin Durant's gone. He's most likely played his last game in a Phoenix Suns uniform. He sat out that game versus Oklahoma City after actually hurting his ankle. And everyone was fearing, oh no, he's going to be traded. And post trade deadline, he was still here. So I'm not buying anything until I see it go through fruition. Brian Windhorst has said multiple times about this Suns team, talking for ESPN, letting us know all these things that were going to happen, and none of them have happened so far this year. So until Kevin Durant is traded, I am not going to say that that is the final solution. There are plenty other solutions for this Suns team to encounter, with one of them obviously moving off of Bradley Beal. Now, Beal has obviously integrated himself fantastically back into the starting lineup and has been a solid player for this team. And for Suns fans that have knocked on Bradley Beal, it's not his play style. He's a top player, top scorer, can create his own shot, can be a catch and shoot player, pretty solid playmaker, can play some pretty good defense as a rim deterrent and perimeter defender as well. The only problem with Bradley Beal is the no trade clause and $50 million. And ultimately, he's not worth that $50 million contract as a third star. If he was making comfortably between 30 to 35 million, I best believe that he would have been able to be moved off this Suns team if he didn't, even if he had the no trade clause, because a team would have taken him on for that value of money. Even if he didn't have the no trade clause at $50 million, a team would have taken him on because someone would have taken him on as a salary dump. By having both of those, it's really hurt this Suns team. And specifically, being in the second apron as well has also limited this Suns team, as that was one of their difficult things. But by trading Yusuf Nurkic, even though we haven't really seen Vasily Micic or Cody Martin play, the Suns do have two cheaper contracts, which if they do waive with getting rid of all their veteran minimums, would then fully resort to being in the first apron, which would allow them to be able to move off Bradley Beal a little bit easier and still give them another plan to keep Kevin Durant and Devin Booker if they want to salvage their relationship. So that's why I'm saying at this very moment, even if the Suns don't make them play, and if they don't make the playoffs, I do believe that there is a possibility that Kevin Durant could still stay with this team, because he said multiple times he wants to remain in Phoenix. He wants to win in Phoenix. And I ultimately do believe that Durant does want to finish his career here in Phoenix. Ultimately, if they can rebuild that relationship with this front office, with this coaching staff, and get them in the right direction with a team built around Booker and Kevin Durant, they know that they can win together. As fans, we know they can win together. And that's something that I would like to see happen. But honestly, if it is not what happens and the Suns do ultimately trade Kevin Durant, the goal of the Phoenix Suns will be a little bit of a soft retool/reset around Devin Booker, possibly even Bradley Beal at that point. Who honestly knows? But those are questions to obviously discuss in with the offseason. But I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section on what you guys think down below on all of this. As like I mentioned, this is crazy that obviously this news is coming out. Kevin Durant obviously can't be traded right now, post-trade deadline. So all this talk, all this rumor, all this gossip and hish-hash is going to have to be going on until the offseason, which ultimately is ridiculous in my point. And I feel bad for Kevin Durant that he has to deal with this every single day. But we have to talk about it. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, how you guys ultimately feel about all this news and what you guys want the Phoenix Suns to do. Do you want them to keep Kevin Durant? Do you want them to trade Kevin Durant? What's your ultimate prediction as well with this team? And if you want to get into more conversations about the Suns, make sure to come by on the stream tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Phoenix time to discuss everything Phoenix Suns, look ahead for this Suns future, and also look back at the last week and answer all your questions. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns. Peace out, everyone.